You may be in the need of a way to list events on your website, maybe have people register for those events, and even pay for those registrations depending on what they are. But that's it, you don't need anything more complicated than that. There's a nice neat solution you can install in WordPress using 3 plugins, so that's what we're going to look at today. Hi, I'm Jason Foss. What we're going to look at today is looking at 3 plugins installed inside of WordPress that lets you do event registrations, list events on your website without being overly complicated. Now I'm going to do this a little bit in reverse today. So what I'm going to run through first is how to add an event, how to set up a registration form on it, and then maybe connect that registration form to a payment gateway if that's what you're looking to do. And then in the second half of the video, I'm going to look at how to actually install and set it up initially. I'm figuring that more often you're going to need to send this video maybe to committee members or other people who have to manage the site, and they're going to be interested in, okay, how do I add a form and get people registering rather than the initial setup process, which once you've done it, you don't really need to look at it again. So if you do want to look at how to set all this up initially, I'll put the timestamp on the screen now. Skip forward to that part of the video where I'll deal with that. But if you've just got if it's already set up and you've just got to set up a new event, this is where you should start. Alright, so what we're looking at here is the output of a plugin called Very Simple Events List. It's all it does, list events pretty much, but it does a really good job of it. And this is the default layout here. I haven't done any customizations to this. This is just how it looks. So what we'll do is we'll click into the first one here, image, some details, a registration form, what sort of ticket that I'm looking to buy, a quantity field, and you can see that the quantity will update depending on what I've chosen there, credit card details, and of course we're running over a secure connection, which pretty much everything should be these days anyway. So in order to set this up, we're going to jump into the back of WordPress here, and we'll see events, and there's a list of our existing events. I'm just going to create a new one, my test event. Oops, how about my test event? I probably could come up with a better name, but that will do us for now. Now in here you'll put details, overviews, speakers, etc. Whatever general information you need to put about the event would go in there. Underneath here is in this event meta sections, we've got all the actual nuts and bolts details of the event. So the dates, let's pop it on 20th of September will do, ending on the same date. Now the time field is a fairly free-form field. You can pretty much put anything in there. And I'll just choose something from a browser history that I've done before. So rather than a drop down of specific times, you can just write in there whatever you need to write. Similarly with location, and again I'm too lazy to type, I'll just put in something from my browser history. Type in the location as you see fit. Now what this won't do is put a Google map on your event. If you want to do that, you'll just need to find the event or the location on Google Maps, grab the event, I keep saying event, grab the location embed code, copy that and paste it into here, or you'll need to install another WordPress plugin that'll do that for you a bit more neatly. But I haven't worried about this in these circumstances. Now, a link to more info. If you were running your registrations through Eventbrite or something like that, you could put your link to your Eventbrite event in there. But not that I'm using that in this example because we're running registrations through the site ourselves. Some other things on there which, to be honest, I've never actually touched. Featured image. It's always nice to have a good image to go with your event, so I'm just going to pick something here that's previously been uploaded. Some categories should you choose to add them, and that's it. If I hit publish now, I've just added my event in, and I'll hit view event up the top there to have a look at it. So there we go, there's my image, the details over here that I have added in, the freeform typing in that main description that I've added in, and that's done. Now if you don't need people to register or don't need anything else beyond it, that's it, you're done. Your event's on the site, happy days, you're finished. However, more often than not, if you're watching this, you will want to also have people register. So to do that, head to the form section here, and we'll see here's a bunch of previous ones that I've done. Now, the simplest way to do this is to just duplicate a previous one, which you can do by grabbing something here, and I will go duplicate there, and that will copy my last one, and I'll end up with a 1 on the end. But what I can do now is I can click that to go in and edit it. Now the first thing you'll probably want to do is fix up the name. I tend to use a year-month naming convention in this example because it makes sense, having a regular monthly meeting. However, your own circumstances may dictate something different. Come up with a consistent format though, so you can find a previous event registration form if you need to. I'm going to call this 08 test, so I remember to go back in and delete it later. Now the rest of the fields here will just be set up as they were previously. What you may want to do is, if there's anything here you need to customize on an event by event basis, then by all means do so. But otherwise we come down to your ticketing type. Now if you've got different types of tickets, or maybe just a single one, you can expand this. And this is where we've got the pricing for different ticket types. So if I was having a meeting next time round where members were possibly free and non-members were $10, for example, I could update those there and collapse that back down, and I've got the pricing set for this event. Now something you'll want to do is, in this example, because I've said members are free, I actually don't want to show them the credit card field. So I'll expand this out. And I'll go to the advanced tab inside there, and I'll enable conditional logic, which basically says we'll only show this field if all of the following match. So I'm going to say if the type of ticket is a non-member, which means they have to pay, then show them the credit card field. If they are a member and they get free entry, don't show them the credit card field. Just be careful if the last field or the last form that you're duplicating from a previous event has a conditional statement around this credit card field. You may want to untick this if you're showing your credit card all of the time, because everybody has to pay you some amount of money to register. So they're the main things you need to worry about. Rest of this should be pretty much as it was. Your type of ticket, just check the pricing that's involved in there, and check any conditional comments in the advanced tab around whether I'm showing or hiding the credit card fields. Once you're done, click update, and that will save. Then go to settings and notifications. Now there's 2 notifications set up here. There's an admin notification which goes to the event organizers, which just basically is a brain dump of all of the details that people have filled in, and you won't need to change that from event to event. It'll be the same every time. The attendee one you might want to fix up though. Scroll down past this. So make sure that the details in the email that you've sent to them are correct. So you'll want to update that to the current event details. Don't just send them out the previous event's details. And that should be about all you need to worry about changing there. Just that we've got current details being sent to them based upon the last one. And then the Stripe field is one you'll need to do. So we're using Stripe here to actually process the credit card payments. And what I need to do, although Stripe has actually been set up inside this website, I need to connect this form to our Stripe account. So I'm going to go add new to add a new Stripe feed. I don't worry about the name here, that doesn't really matter too much. Got 2 options, product and services or subscription. In this case, because I'm just registering for a single event, it's a single purchase product and service. And the payment amount is the form total, because that's automatically adding up how many registrations or how many people are registering and what they're paying. That's the one I need. I don't need to worry about any of these guys, so I'm going to click update settings. Feeds updated successfully, so that's going to pass the form total to our Stripe account for processing when they put their credit card in. So I've set up the form, so basically I've duplicated the form, I've edited any payment and conditional statement details around displaying the credit card field. I've updated the attendee notifications to have the correct event details in them, and then I've added the Stripe feed just to connect this form to Stripe. What I'll do now is I'll head back to events, back to this test event that I've set up before, and I will now hit return and add a new form to this thing. So there's my test one. I'm going to untick these two, we don't need them, and hit insert form there. And that piece of gobbledygook there is the placeholder to drop that form on that event page. So if I update that now and hit view event, there's my test event. I'll scroll down, there's my featured image I added, the information I added in the field meta, the overview again, and and now I've got the registration form on the page as it's set up. And if I say, well, there's two of us coming and it's a member, the total is 0, the credit card form doesn't display because I set that conditional statement for that to happen. If I choose non-member, it adds up the total and shows me the credit card field because that's what I set the conditional comment to say. Hit register, payment gets processed, information gets emailed off to the attendees, the registrant, as well as the people on any organising committee who were listed in that before, and it gets added into a database in here, which we can pull out as a spreadsheet, and I'll show you that now. So if we come back to forms, and if I come back to this particular form here and look at entries, this will obviously be empty at the moment because there's nothing in there. But now let's choose a different form, one that I know does have some entries in it. I'll just pick an older one at random. Here are all the people who've registered for this event, all in here. Now, to get these guys out, we need to go to Import, Export, choose our form, select all to choose all of the fields that have been added in, and I can now download export file, and that'll download a CSV for me that I can then put into Excel or do whatever I want to do with it. So I've got my attendee list handy. Alright, this last step here of downloading the CSV file is probably something you'll do at the end, after registrations have closed, just before the event starts, so that you've got a current list. But other than that, everything's now done. If you come back to events and view that, just to confirm, we've got everything there, nice featured image, details there, an overview there, your registration forms there, it's all connected up, so you can copy that URL there, throw that on Facebook, throw it into an email, circulate it, do what you need to promote the event. But technically, the work's all done. Well, that part of the work's all done. Now the fun work becomes fun work starts of actually making the event happen. Good luck. We'll talk to you next time. Alright, so in terms of setup, this is all done using 3 plugins. So we're going to use the very simple events list, which actually manages the events themselves. We're going to use Gravity Forms to build the forms, and then we're going to use the Gravity Forms Stripe plugin to add the credit card details and connect the payment processing to Stripe at the end. Now, if your events don't require any payment, well, you don't need that last one. You don't need the Gravity Forms Stripe plugin. You don't need a Stripe account, and you can just have a form where people just fill in their details and hit submit, and it emails you the details if that's all you need. There are probably other, well, not probably, there are other gateway processes you can use. PayPal's a fairly well-known one, but in this example we use Stripe. If you don't have a Stripe account, head over to stripe.com and have a look at their details over there and sign up if you feel that's going to be a good fit for you. They're nice and simple to set up and connect to these sorts of things, which is why I'm a bit of a fan. So first of all, in terms of the very simple events list plugin, let's just head down to that one. Very simple events list, there it is. So I've got some settings for it there. To be honest, I don't think I actually changed very much of this from the default settings. I didn't really have to do anything with. You can tinker with some bits and pieces there in terms of some default show and hide values, and some time and date formats. But I don't remember actually changing very much of this. It just worked pretty much out of the box. I didn't have to worry about it. One thing that is really nice about the Very Simple Event List plugin is, if I pull this up now, there's lots and lots of shortcodes, and it's got some examples here, and some more customized examples there in terms of number of posts per page and categories to display. So if you want to tinker with how things get output and how many get output and so on and so forth, it's really flexible in terms of the shortcodes that you can use on various pages. It also comes with a widget as well, which is pretty simple. Drag the Very Simple Event List widget into a sidebar or a footer, and you can list your upcoming events in there as well. In terms of customization, I haven't had to do much with this at all. It just install the plugin, activate it, it works. Happy days. There's not much to do. I should point out, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you know how to install the plugin and activate it. If you don't know that, there's plenty of other tutorials at a more basic level in WordPress as to how to do that. But that's all you need to do for this one anyway. Not much going on. Once you've activated that plugin, you've got these events up here, and then just create a new page and choose the appropriate shortcode, paste that onto the page and save that page, and that will output your events for you. Now, the next part, it's a little bit more complicated. So if we have a look at the form section here, now, while Very Simple Events List is free, Gravity Forms is not. It's a paid plugin, but worth every penny. Super powerful, super easy to use. It's just totally worth it. I have a look on their website in terms of what a current license is going to cost you, but it is very well worth the investment in it. So, in terms of setting the form up itself, I'm just going to call this Test Starter. So once the plugin's activated and so on, you've got your form section on the left-hand side here. So to create a blank form, you've got a couple of different types of fields, or a couple of different main groups of fields, I should say. So there's the generic single line of text, paragraph text, drop-downs, so on and so forth here. Advanced fields here, which are specifically looking for name, time, email formatting. Post fields, which we won't use in this instance, and then pricing fields, which is where we start to get with our tickets, cost, quantity, so on and so forth. So in standard, I'll go to advanced fields first, so I'll drop a name in there, and we probably want an email address, and we might want a phone number, and they're all there, pre-formatted off the block like that. What you might want to do then is go in and say, I've missed that, go in and say, okay, which of these are required? And we'll probably mark all 3 of these required. Now the thing with phone number is it is formatted for the US, so if you're anywhere outside the US you want to change the phone format to international, otherwise you're going to have to put it in that particular format. At that point in time, if there's anything else you want beyond that, if there's a paragraph text there where you want to change that to dietary requirements. I haven't spelled that well at all. Or anything else you want to add in there, then go to town. The one thing I would say is only ask what you specifically need for this event and nothing more. A lot of people get carried away and think, I can ask all of these things and I'll have all this information in my database, and that's great. But if you make your form too hard to fill in, you might have people say, it's too hard, and you might have done that yourself, gone to fill out something that's too hard. It's not that important. So keep it as simple as you can. Just ask what you need at that point in time. So down to pricing fields. So I'm going to add a product one first. Now, if everybody's paying the same amount for a ticket, if you don't have members versus non-members or anything like that, if everybody's paying the same for a ticket, it's pretty straightforward. There's my ticket, $20. It's required because I have to ask how many I want, and if I collapse that up, I probably should give general ticket. That will do us for a name. So you can see in there in the ticket, I can put my quantity in. That's probably all I need to worry about. I'll put total down the bottom. And the total will then add up. If I put 2 in that field, the total will tell me $40, and that's just a a number down the bottom there of how many I need to add. If you had more than one kind of ticket, you'll want to change this from single product to, I actually like radio buttons most of the time. Now radio buttons mean that all of the options are actually displayed for you without necessarily being having to click a drop-down list to see what options there are available. So if I leave that like that now, I've got 3 different options there. You'll notice at that point in time there's no option for me to actually put a quantity in. The fields are there without quantities, which is not what I want. So I'm going to collapse that up, and I'll need to put quantity in there as well. Now by adding quantity in there, I can make a choice in terms of whether it's a first class ticket or a general ticket or a free ticket or a members ticket or whatever my different price points are, because I will have adjusted those depending on what my circumstances are. Quantity will then allow me to put in how many I want, and again total will add up that maths form at the end of the day. I'll then want a credit card field down the bottom, which drops all of that formatting in nicely. Really simple, don't have to do anything complicated there. What I will want to do is, am I taking Amex and Discover? No, it's just MasterCard and Visa, so just leave those guys ticked. And something a bit tricky you might want to do in advanced is add some conditional logic. So say for example, pardon me, my third choice ticket up here was actually free. And if that's the case, there's no point in showing people a credit card field if there's no actual bill to pay. So I'm going to tick enable conditional comment, and I'm only going to show this if all of these following conditions match. So let's grab general ticket is third choice. I'm actually going to hide it if that matches. So remember I said, say the third choice ticket was free, but first and second choice actually had some money needed to change hands. So I'll hide that if the general ticket is third choice. So if they choose third choice, the free ticket won't show the credit card. If they show first or second, it will show the credit card. Sorry, that might have been a bit clearer if I'd have actually put some values in there, but if you're doing this, test it, choose some ticket types, put some quantities in. Does the credit card field show or hide? Just make sure the logic works for all of the ticket options before you actually send the thing live. So I'm going to update that now, and basically I've built my first registration form. So if you watch the first part of this video already, what anybody else can do now if somebody else has to create new forms out of this is they can basically come to this form, duplicate it, and all of this stuff will be set up for them, ready to go. Alright, so that's building a form. Some other things in terms of your initial setup of Gravity Forms you might need to worry about is if you go to settings here and Stripe, you will need to put some API keys in here from your Stripe account. So I'm assuming you've got your Stripe account set up at this stage. Get into the developers section there and get the API keys out. There's 2 kinds, there's the live ones and the test ones. This is a live site, so I've got it activated live here and the live keys in. If you were still testing this, you'd probably knock this over to test mode, knock Stripe over to test mode. There's a toggle button for that as well. Get the test publishable key and the test secret key and pop them in here, and that way you can just run some test transactions through without actually affecting any financials. Make sure though when you are finished testing you do switch this over to live and put the live details in. You'll also need to enable webhooks. There's a link here to follow the instructions to do that. I won't step through that now because that may very well change by the time you're watching this, but click the link and follow the instructions that the Stripe give you there in terms of how to connect the webhook from your Stripe account back to this. Again, you only need to do this once. Once this stuff is set up, you can keep creating events and forms and connections after this once you're done. Now back in terms of this form, one thing we did miss actually, I'll get back to my test starter as well, is we didn't set up any notifications. So confirmations are after I fill in the form and hit submit, I'll get some kind of thank you message on the screen. Now that may well be just a box that appears on the same page, thanks for your registration. We may well take them to a different page that says thanks for your registration, here's some more details, whatever the case may be. I'll leave that up to you as to how you want to set that. That doesn't matter too much at the end of the day. Notifications though are the emails that get triggered. So by default there's an admin notification with every form, and this can basically be sent to whoever your organisers are on the committee, whoever's organising the event, whoever needs to know. And the default value in here is all fields. So basically everything that's entered into that form, it's just going to get dropped into a table and emailed to the event organiser, and that's probably all you need to worry about at this stage. However, what you will want, I believe, is a new notification that goes to your person who's registered. So I'm going to call this a attendee. Now in there we'll want to select a field, and that will go to email. Now when we created the form, if you remember, we actually used the special email field there. Gravity Forms knows it's an email field, so it's available then to choose to send a form from. From name, you'd put your organisation name in there probably, and a reply to email address that will get checked. Subject line, your registration, your event registration, whatever you feel like putting in there. But the message, this one actually goes to the person's registered themselves rather than internal. So what I like to do here is put some details about the event they're registered for. Where it is, when it is, any reminders, anything they should know. Make sure you bring water or sunscreen or whatever happens. But rather than just outputting the form fields on here, this one really should be something that's a bit more useful to the person who's registered. And again, this is a starting template there, so write in what you feel that you need, for your event, your circumstances, and then as you're duplicating it later on, you can just jump in and adjust these details on a case-by-case basis. I think that's probably about all we need to know. We've had a look at Stripe in there, and you only need to do that on a form-by-form basis. We dealt in that in the first part of the video. So that's probably what you need to worry about. Install very simple event list, install Stripe, install install Gravity Forms, install the Gravity Forms Stripe plugin. So they're the 3 plugins you'll need to run. In terms of configuration, you need to set up your API keys and your webhooks in Gravity Forms Stripe settings there to make that happen. Create your initial form for registration, so people have got that as a template. And you're then pretty much good to go. Always test these things before you release it to any unsuspecting committee members or members of the general public to make sure it's going okay. But all told, it's a pretty straightforward setup. There's nothing overly complicated in it. Have fun, leave some comments below if I've missed anything so I can fix it up. Otherwise, good luck, have fun with it.